And we are live. Hello and welcome to the Business Octopus. How you going, Amanda?
I am fabulous. How are you, Avon?
Cold. I have my bar heater here and it is moving into winter. So for us Brisbaneites, it's, I guess everybody else is laughing at us because it's generally pretty good and pretty tame here, but it's all relative to where you are. Anyway, all right. So today we're going to be talking about case studies. I think there's heaps of, I guess, gold in a case study and all of the clients that you've worked with before. But I think that sometimes people don't do enough of them. People don't do them very well. Or sometimes people do them too much.
Okay. Intriguing.
So I have an example of this. I did some work with someone and I provided a case study. They're like, oh, would you be able to provide a case study? I'm like, sure, I'll spend a bit of time. Then what happened was we ended up doing 3 or 4 versions of case studies. No, I did the first case study, then they came back and they're like, oh, can you rewrite it? And so I rewrote it. And then a few months on, they're like, oh, can you also put it on this platform and this platform and this platform? And then can you, like, they came back again, oh, can we do an interview? Can we do like this? Can we do that? So I think there's a level at some point where that's just too much to ask. Having a case study, ideally, if you've done some really good work with a client, that you should be extracting that value. But you need to make it easy for the client. If they're willing to give you a case study, they're giving up their time. I've already paid for the service. Now I feel like I need to be paid for the case study services.
Right. Yeah, that was too much. That was over and above.
Yeah, like it was probably like if I had added it all up, it'd probably be like 5 or 10 hours worth of my time to provide a case study. That's all right. If we did a massive project and it was like 100 grand or something, and it was worth them doing a case study, like if they gave me a little bit over and above, or they did a really good service, I'd feel compelled to do it, and I'd be happy to give up, maybe a couple of hours for filming, or to do an interview or something like that, or to write something. But other than that, it's now not my full-time job to provide case studies.
No. There's a better way, right, Avon? There's got to be a better way.
Yeah, I mean that's a personal frustration of mine, and probably important framing. Like if you are going to ask for case studies, that you do it in a way that is going to actually benefit your business. Because if they sit there and then all of a sudden they get frustrated with the process, then it's not going to be a very good case study.
Absolutely. So Avon, something we've done in the past is write the case study from our perspective, like do 90% of the work, send it to the client for approval. So is that maybe a better approach?
Oh, absolutely. Like you've already provided the service. You at least get to put your spin on it, and then they can kind of add their little, I think, this better reflects, or here's another little quote that you can use. Another great way is just to jump on a Zoom and do an interview, record it, transcribe it, turn that into the case study, and then send it back to them once you've edited down to what you need it to be, and done. Like you've made it easy for them. That's the thing, is just make it easy for them if you actually want to get a case study. Otherwise, it's going to be a frustrating thing, and it will probably ruin the relationship if you take it too far.
Yeah, no, and we're not about that. So just to take it a step backwards, Avon. So if we've got some viewers that are tuning in and maybe they haven't done their first case study. So what is a case study and what should be included, and what's the goal? What's the outcome we're looking for here?
Well, a case study is going to give an example of where someone else has had success with your product or service.
Cool.
And most people want to see themselves in the shoes of, your product or service. So they're looking for examples. And we've got to try and give them like a scenario based on their unique set of circumstances. So when you go to like a software company, you'll often see there's an industries or solutions tab, and you click on that and it'll say solutions for real estate, solutions for professional services, solutions for something else. And then within that, there's generally a set of case studies or some specific key use cases where the client can see their own problem being solved by that particular solution. One of our good friends has an excellent case study, which I've got here.
Ooh,
And so this is Luke from Age of Cyber. Shout out to you. Good job.
nice one,
And
Luke.
he's got this case study, and it's excellent. It's just a one pager. It says what was the problem or the challenge, what was the solution, what were the results, and then like the key areas that were delivered. But he's got a whole pack of these, and they're different for each scenario. There's like 10 or so in here. So when you're talking to a customer, you don't want to give them like, here's 50 volumes of the encyclopedia of our business. What you want to do is you want to give them a very cut down specific view that's unique to them. So by having a few like one pager, printed things, he's got this little binder book. You can
wow.
grab specifically this one, that one, and that one out of a suite of 10 or 20 and go, here are the 3 that are relevant to you. These clients did this because you have that similar problem. They got that result because and they're at a similar size to you, because the client can then see themselves in the shoes of what this other person did, to say, oh, they're like us because of this. So if they've had a good experience and it's been successful, maybe we'll have a good experience and we'll be successful.
Exactly.
And we just take the risk.
Amazing. I love it. I love it. So, and graphically, that looks sensational as well. I know I'm going on a bit of a tangent here. Like, what elements has young Luke used on his case study there to make it look so fabulous?
Well, he's used another a professional graphic designer called her name is Kate Smith. I know her personally.
Okay.
Another shout out. Good job.
Yeah.
So like there's an image. I guess sometimes it's hard to get good images of the customer. Personally, I like to use faces. Like if you've got the people and they look more real. Like if it looks like a stock image. This goes more with his branding, so it's done that way. Personally, I think having real faces, real tangible people that you can see, maybe a sense of scale. Like maybe them standing in their grand office. That would be more impactful than a stock image. Or maybe if sometimes the client doesn't want to do that, or sometimes I think it's important to pull out like a quote. So that's what they've done here,
Nice.
which is kind of like the voice of the customer, what the person has said that has been key. And then also the key points, these are like little dot points to say, what actually was delivered, what were the key points, key elements of this. And I think, realizing that everyone's running around on their own favorite radio station, WIIFM, what's in it for me? They're not going to go and read every little skerrick of information that you give them. So if you give them less and then it's more targeted, and you give them something like these dot points where they can quickly skim and go, yep, that's me. I think I will now read in a little bit more detail. Then that creates exactly what you want. I have a concept, a little acronym called BLUF, right? Bottom line up front. So you want to give everyone as much like key points that they go, yeah, that interests me. I'm going to read further. So in copywriting, that's, the headline and the subheadline and the hook. And that's what's going to get somebody in to then go, actually, I do want to read more. You need to make it highly skimmable and very consumable. Otherwise, it's just not going to be read or used.
Absolutely. And just going back to, so in this particular case, Luke got a graphic designer to create a template, I'm assuming, that he can then go and put other case studies in that same template, which is awesome. Yep. Team, no excuses. If you're just getting started, there are some great templates on Canva that you can change into your branding colors as well. So don't let anything be a barrier. You can get started right now.
So I think, like what does a case study need to do? I think normally when someone experiences a product or service, they're looking for the result. And they're also trying to kind of combine, maybe what they were like before. So what was the client like before they dealt with you? And then what were they like afterwards? So they want the before state because it says, were they or are they in the same position as us. And that's how the customer can resonate with the information that's being presented. Then you've got, what happened along the way, what you did. That gives a bit of information around how to improve. And then the result, like, did they actually get what they wanted? Well, if you read into it, maybe they got more than what they expected. Maybe they had a very impactful result. And then the client can see that before state and after state. And I think sometimes it's ways to break down this, getting more into like copywriting, to break that before state and after state down further, is you've got the, there's probably, what does the person have? They have a business that is crazy busy all the time. They don't know where they're up to. And the after state is they have something that is well organized, well structured. They know where they're going to be, when and why. And they have a much better control over the thing. They have a better day, right? The next thing is, what does their average day look like? They're running around like all crazy. I know they sound similar, but a business that's under control versus a business that's not under control. That's the first. What do they have? Then it's what their average days look like. And then maybe it's how do they feel? Because maybe they feel stressed, they feel tired, they feel overwhelmed. And then the after state is they feel confident and in control. They feel relaxed. And then the other one is, another layer to that is status. So maybe the status is that they don't know what they're doing. They're only just keeping their head above water. Like, this is how they're perceived by other people. And this is important to the reader. And then the after state would be, they know their stuff. They're a business leader. They're in control. And that is, 4 layers that you can add to the copy to really make it sing to the reader. That before state and after state is really important. And then the last thing I would say is, we kind of touched on it before, is like how we collect the case study information. So we kind of alluded at the start as a bad example of how to collect. I think that was just over collection or over exploitation of the case study resource. The later we talked about, sitting down to an interview, something like this, where we do a little bit of a podcast, or maybe it's a podcast. It goes on your socials. Then you transcribe it. So content syndication means you do something once, turn it into multiple pieces of content, and then place it in multiple areas. But for, like, let's just say you get the Prime Minister or the President or something like that in a interview. Are you going to ask them then to write the document out, then attend like multiple sort of things? Or are you going to be so glad that you've got that hour with them and you're going to try and do the most with you that you can and minimize the time that they have? So treat your customer like the President or the Prime Minister. Sorry.
Yeah. Make it easy for them, set them up to win. Absolutely.
Yeah. And then, how do we put them to use? We kind of touched on that as well, is put them on your website, obviously. Boil them down into a nice little bit of a document that you can hand people. So, quite often when we have a conversation, someone will ask, maybe for a proposal, but we might also attach a few case studies that are relevant to them. Or they might say, can we see your capability statement, which is like the booklet with everything. But then we want to say, well, whilst we could do everything, these 3 things in particular is probably more relevant to you. And here's a couple of case studies that support that. So rather than giving them 500 pages to read, give them 5 or 10, or 3, less is more. Make it super specific and make it really obvious that you are the one that is the clear choice.
Definitely. So, okay. And you mentioned putting these on our website, Avon. So how do we make them, how do we help people to find the right case study that they will see themselves in, like you were talking about before? Oh, Avon has disappeared. In that case, let me answer that question for you. So when you're dividing up your case studies, it's a really great idea to divide them by industries. So when you think about, maybe you've worked in the hospitality industry, he's back.
Technical difficulties. Just internet dropped for a second. Anyway, keep going.
Talking.
Yeah, go for it.
I was answering the question that I asked you. So a way that we can divide them up, or have them searchable if you like on our website. Divide them up by industries. Avon, you can take it from there if you like.
Oh, you sound like you had it. Go.
I was literally just saying, so if, maybe you've worked with some clients in the hospitality industry, maybe mining, maybe tourism, for example, you could divide them up into the different industries that you've worked with. And that makes it super easy for someone to go, oh, I work in financial services. I can see there's 3 case studies here that are in the same industry. So that makes it really easy for them to find case studies that they'll see themselves in, or their particular challenges.
Yeah, I think, anytime you can give people just what they need to see and nothing more, that you should do it. So not only should you be doing that in your case studies, maybe there's some content pieces and categorization. So like, blog categories, or so they could filter down to that, or maybe it is like your YouTube channel, right? So you can segment by playlists. Yes. So if you had playlists that were specific to how you've dealt with that industry, or interviews with people that you've done that's relevant to them, it really just showcases that you know what you're talking about. You can make it specific to who they are and what they're trying to achieve. And they can, again, see themselves in their shoes. So 70% of people buy a solution to solve a specific problem. So if you give them the everything, they're less likely to buy from you. And absolutely. Particularly as your business grows and your content grows, there is too much to give them.
Absolutely. So make sure whatever we're showing them, or making it easy for them to find, is very narrow to solve their very specific issue. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Nailed it.
Well, I think we've done a pretty good job. So if maybe we could get a case study, if you're watching this, just tell us what you thought of the episode in the comments. That'll really help us to do a better job. Either, case studies are good for also getting feedback, like maybe it's not just about, getting the case study for the next sale. Maybe it's about saying what worked, what went well, what went poorly. Like, this is an after action review. So I'm a big fan of trying to hit multiple outcomes with one activity. Like, how do we leverage our time? So, if you record it, now you can transcribe it and do all those other things and create video content. So now we've done something that's leverageable. If we could do that in the interview, maybe we say after action review, now that we've done the thing, I'd like to also frame this as a case study. Would you be open to that? Like, you set the agenda at the start of the meeting, you make it super clear on what you're going to cover. And then you say, hey, it was great working with you. Did you have any feedback? What went really well and what did you enjoy? Could you maybe describe your before state, describe during the middle, and then describe the after? And if you facilitate that really well, you're actually going to get all the information. You're going to tick all those boxes without having to, force it out of the client. And you can also turn to what would have been 2 meetings into one, and like your post action review and your case study. You can say, if you could change anything, what would it be? Like, just give them that open space to say those things. And then later, when you edit the video, you can cut it any which way you like. You can remove all of the bits that were the negative feedback if you want. Maybe, like, sometimes it's the framing of it. Sometimes they say, and sometimes negative feedback can be good in a case study. For example, would you trust someone with 10,000 5-star reviews?
No, because it's clearly bullshit. I mean, it's clearly, doctored.
Yes. Yeah. So it would make more sense to create a, something to say, we were a bit hesitant at first. However, they were helpful with this, and this. Like, sometimes it doesn't always have to say this was horrendous and this other thing was really good. Sometimes you can add some negativity without it being real negativity. Could just be hesitation. And then, like, maybe the other reader, that's what I was saying, like that before state and other after state, is that the reader would look at that and go, oh, well, I'm nervous at the start. They were nervous at the start. Maybe we resonate better because, or they resonate better with the case study because they go, I'm feeling exactly what that person was feeling.
Absolutely. Nice one.
All right. Well, I think we've done this episode justice. If you are indeed still watching, thank you so much. Did you have anything else to add before we run, Amanda?
No, I think we covered it beautifully. If you do have any additional questions, team, you can always drop them in the comments. What else do the viewers at home need to know, Avon?
Oh, yes. Thank you for reminding me. So we do have the Relevate community. You can join at the link below. If you've got any other questions that you want a little bit more detail in, if you ask in the community, we can either bring it to these episodes here, or we can go into more depth and answer you more specifically in the community. Otherwise, it's a great place to help businesses grow and scale and deal with the challenges of doing everything new for the first time. So thank you for watching, and you stay classy.